So let's take a look at our last example for these types of questions, and that is we want to solve e raised to the x squared power is equal to e raised to the 4x minus 2 power. And remember, when we're solving exponential equations, the first thing that we really want to check, because it's the easiest thing to do, is to see if we can use the one-to-one property. And remember, we use the one-to-one property if we have the same base, if we can either write it as the same base or we have the same base. And look, we do. We have the same base on both sides. So we can use the one-to-one property here. And remember, it says in essence, we can cancel out the base and then set the exponents equal to each other. So let's set this equal. X squared is equal to 4x minus 2. All right, so what we're really looking to do here is we're looking to solve this equation, x squared is equal to 4x minus 2. So I hope that you can see at this point that this is a quadratic equation, right? We have a second degree or quadratic equation, which means that we want to get 0 on one side and everything else on the other side, either to see if we can factor it or if we can solve it using the quadratic formula. So we move that 4x and we move the 2 over to the other side, and the equation that we're solving in standard form is x squared minus 4x plus 2. In regards to factoring it, it's not factorable. We can't find two numbers whose product is 2 that sums to -4. But remember, anytime we have a quadratic, we can solve it using the quadratic formula. So let's do a quick review of what it means to solve something using the quadratic formula. Remember, here is what the quadratic formula says. It says if you have a quadratic equation in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, then this formula will always work as the following. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and remember that this b value is the same as this b value, that this a value is the same as this a value and this a value, and that c value over here is the same as this c value over here. So they are just the coefficients of the different terms in the formula. So I'm going to list off to the side. We're going to go back and solve this using the quadratic formula, and we know that for this example, we know that our a value is 1. We know that our b value is -4. And we know that our c value is 2. Okay, so let's plug this into the quadratic formula. And let's see what our solutions look like. So when we substitute it in, we get x is equal to negative b, and b is -4, so minus -4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so -4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 2, all over 2 times a, which is 1. All right, and now we're going to take the steps to simplify this as much as we possibly can. So we have x is equal to, -4 is the same thing as saying +4, plus or minus the square root of, -4 squared is 16, minus 4 times 1 times 2, which is 8, all over 2. And let's simplify as much as we possibly can on the inside of the radical. So this is the same thing as saying the 4 plus or minus the square root of 8 over 2. Right? 16 minus 8 is 8. And recall that we can simplify the square root of 8. That's the same thing as saying the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. And that's the same thing as saying 2 radical 2. So this is equivalent to 4 plus or minus 2 radical 2 all over 2. And we can simplify it one step further by dividing both the numerator and denominator by the 2. So x is the same thing as saying 4 divided by 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 2 over 2. Notice that 4 divided by 2 is the same thing as saying 2, and that these 2's cancel. So we end up with our solutions as being 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. Now let's talk about what that means. We have, first of all, two solutions. We're going to call our first solution 2 plus the square root of 2. Although the order is entirely unimportant, we're going to call our second solution 2 minus the square root of 2. So this is what we refer to when we say exact values. These are the exact values of the exact solutions, 2 plus the square root of 2 and 2 minus the square root of 2. Now, in terms of a decimal approximation, we're just going to type this into our calculator. I'm going to type in 2 plus the square root of 2. Rounded to 3 decimal places, I get 3.414. So our first solution is approximately equal to 3.414. And our second solution for 2 minus the square root of 2, rounded again to 3 decimal places, is 0.5 0.86. So here are two exact solutions. I'm going to underline them in pink. And here are two decimal approximations for this equation.